know.
story.
I don't know about that either because I
Right.
thought she'd be around. I don't see her. Okay.
I actually have. And
Okay.
me and her talk all the time. She's like my
I should
sister.
I should invite her in here because I'd
You
love to
should.
meet her.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
cool.
I would love to. I'll talk to her. I'll try to help her get in here.
Good.
Yeah, I'll start with. I spoke with Dr. Yvonne Spicer, and I am so proud of her. And people were making that comparison.
Can we back up a little bit for folks who don't know who Ron Bell is? Again, I'm assuming, I just assumed that everybody knew who. Can you just introduce yourself to folks and tell them about the role you played in this last election?
Okay. My name's Ron Bell. I'm from Mission Hill, and formerly I was the executive director of the Mission Hill Community Center's senior advisor for Governor Deval Patrick, and as well. And this last election, and worked on numerous campaigns, and I continue to work on campaigns, but in a different role. But in this last election, I started out helping candidates to run for office with this project I had called Operation 12, because I thought it was important that we really challenge the status quo. Because a lot of these candidates in the city council in particularly are not opposed. They're not challenged, and though they go unopposed, and so therefore they get a free ride. Like a lot of the
and they're
city councils
comfortable
at
with
large,
not
and
doing their jobs.
Exactly. And given the fact that they've gotten a $15,000 raise, and some of them do deserve it,
Yes.
but some of them do not.
Yes.
So but I ended up in a role that I really didn't want to be in, but I ended up becoming the senior advisor for Tito Jackson, who happens to be my cousin.
Well, how did that happen? How did you end up being the senior advisor?
Well, first of all, I was a senior advisor, but in a unofficial role.
Capacity, right.
Right, because I really wanted to really shake things up in the Boston area, and particularly, and I think what really sparked me was when they were comparing lives to paper bags.
Wow.
Remember the plastic bags, that whole, because I went to Cambridge and I got some out of the CVS, and they said it costs a nickel. I said, a nickel for the bag? I said, well, I won't use a bag. So they were trying to do the same thing in Boston, so we killed that, immediately. And so I said, you know what? These folks need to be challenged.
Yeah.
And so Councilor Jackson hired an individual from Washington, D.C., who ended up not turning out to be what we thought he would. And so I had to kind of step in that role as senior advisor for media and field relations.
Okay.
And I did not really want to do this because these knees don't have it like I used to.
Yeah, you old.
I'm getting old. I have to admit, I'll be almost past his age in a few. That's why we got our old man shirts on. But anyway, so and it was interesting to see the different sectors, the media piece, having the relationship built with the Herald and the Globe, their political reporters, whether it be Dan Atkinson or Megan Irons, whether it be, with the mainstream media as relates to TV and so forth. So being in that role was quite interesting to see, and to experience and to interact. But also in the field, there was so many things I learned about Boston. We always talk about the 22 neighborhoods in the city of Boston, but there are 23 neighborhoods because the Seaport is it's another planet.
Yeah.
But I also realized that not only do we have 23 neighborhoods, we have 105 sub-neighborhoods.
Right.
And there were pockets in the neighborhoods that I was going to that I was like, I haven't been here in a while. Because back in the day, we couldn't go up in Savin Hill.
This is true.
We couldn't go to
Tell the people, because they have no idea.
Man, I was like this. Wait a second. And so even with my role as the senior advisor with, my first role was deputy campaign manager with Deval Patrick. I didn't go into the nitty gritty of the community because I had field directors.
Right. And as deputy, you were in the house. Yeah. You weren't in the field.
I was, right.
Yeah, as deputy, you're in the house.
I'm in the house.
You're not in the field.
Because I had to be in the house because that's where the decisions are being made.
Absolutely.
And
as deputy director, that's where.
And so I had to make sure I had to get the resources for the black community because in these campaigns, they do not think about us, don't care about us, and won't do anything for us unless we fight. So what people don't understand is like when you're in there, you have to fight. So when they come after you, you're in the zone. Exactly. So like I said in the last segment, I had talked about how the black elected officials are not only are officials for their district, but they're for the state.
Yes.
Because there are people that come to Tito from all over the city
that are not in his district, and he's not an at-large city councilor. So let's make that clear.
Yes, it has to be made clear. And also the fact that the city councils at large, they're not held accountable. because folks don't really understand
what their roles are. Again, and they're not visible in the community.
Exactly.
And I will continually call them out because, again, listen, I don't live in Mrs. Lynch's district. Right. I don't live in Florida.
Right.
But I show this because I can call on any one of those state reps. I can call the sheriff, Israel, right now, and I can assure you that I would either get a call or a call back. When I've always called, whether it be Ayanna Presley's office, Dorsita Forey, Walsh, and the rest of them, you call them, you may not ever get a call back. Right. And I'm a constituent. I vote. I participate in the process of the civic duties, yeah? And so again, if I didn't know you people, I'd actually be insulted. But I'm not, because I don't care enough about you and you mean nothing to me, except that you're a public servant and you ought to do your job. And Ron and I are going to hold you accountable going forward.
Well, one of the things that unraveled for me, and Councilor Jackson, who was brilliant as far as his data and his percentages and everything, and I was amazed. I was like, wow, this brother got it going on as it relates to like his delivery and really educating our community. And when the sister had mentioned, the pastor had mentioned the trauma that she is under and how she really looked toward Councilor Chuck Turner, Councilor Jackson, and who is she's going to go to? She needs to continue, and we tend to forget it's not just city councils. There's also state reps. There are also Congress. There's 3 levels of government: local, state, and national. And so folks need to understand that if you don't get any response from the city councilor, go to your state rep. And if you don't get any response from your state rep, go to your governor. If you don't go to governor, go to your state representative.
And you also have 2 federal senators, and I was just talking to a couple of folks about this the other night. Now, I was a political newbie when I first started working at Senator Kerry's office. And when I heard people, and again, I didn't know if you had an electrical issue, rent problem, head problem, whatever, call your senator. Right. I had no idea, Ron.
Well, when I was in the governor's office, one of my offices I was responsible was constituency services.
Right.
People will call me for everything.
Yes.
And I had to refer them to their local first.
Yes.
What happened?
That's the chain of command.
Exactly. And but see, because of who I am, and I'm from the hood, and I love my people.
Yes.
I would help them and facilitate them. Everyone's not going to do that.
That's right. I did the same thing.
Exactly.
Yes. I'd walk you through it. I wouldn't just throw you into some dark pit where you didn't know where the heck you were. I didn't do that to people. Right. I know lots of folks that we right now who are still in offices and positions of power, who if you call them, they throw you into a voicemail and you stay in a dark place forever and not get a response. Right. We didn't do that.
Right, exactly. And so one of the things that really bothered me was the fact the statistic of a black family's net worth being $8.
Oh my, listen.
Compared to a white family, $247,000.
That's enough to send you into a traumatic tailspin because
a trauma trigger. Yeah. And I had plenty of them.
Yes.
I mean, it was just like, are you kidding me? And see, and hearing that data being presented by Councilor Jackson, which was not given by, this report that was done. Yeah. The Color of Wealth, I believe that's where the data he received it from. I seen that played out. Yeah. Not only in the constituents and our folks in our community, but even in our campaign.
Yes.
And you wonder why folks end up in the hospital. You wonder why folks are on drugs and alcohol. We are traumatized as a community.
And the mental health issues in our community are exponential. They're huge, folks. All of us are suffering from some sort of trauma. We've been overly traumatized by whether it be the racist comments, the racist attitudes. I say racism is terrorism, and we've been terrorized, and we've been so put into this normalization of the terrorism that we think this is part of our daily lives. It's not. And we're living in a sick reality that we ought to find ourselves to come out of there. We need to dig ourselves out of there. And so I'm wondering, so where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Dr. Martin Luther King said it more concisely than I could. And so when you think about this past election where 80% of the precincts of color voted for the other guy, right? And we're not saying that they should have voted for Tito because he's black. I'm saying, from my perspective, Walsh has not done all the things that he promised in his campaign for 4 years ago. Number two, I grew up in this town, and I've not seen so many down and out, we'll say, people. And I don't know, since the 80s when we had Orchard Park looking like, crack haven.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, where are we going in this city? Tito talked about gentrification, which is a huge, again, while we're so traumatized, we can't pay attention to all the issues that we need to pay attention to. And so we need people like you and I to advocate on people's behalf. And so the gentrification issue is huge, and it needs to be dissected. So next Tuesday, I'll have Alice Kidder, who's an economist, come in here and talk about how that's affecting the least of us in this community. And the fact that we're having homes now in Dorchester and Roxbury selling for $1 million. How's that, Ron?
Well,
and people only making what? No, wait a minute. We're only worth $8.
Yeah, $8.
$8.
Yeah.
And so, how are we building condominiums that are worth, $500,000? In a part, there's a house selling in Roxbury for over $1 million. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So who are they making these homes for?
For folks that are coming from all across the world.
Oh, you mean the Amazon techie groups
and the GE
tech sector?
Well, there was a report done by Bloomberg where folks were. They said Boston's probably one of the best places to live. So folks, it was just this whole. I mean, we must have about another 100,000 folks that came to the city. God bless Councilor Jackson for taking the stand, Evan Falchuk for taking the stand, and no to Boston Olympics, because that would have been sped up. And folks tend to forget that Boston 2024 would have put gentrification on another level.
Steroids.
Right. And you see what happened in Seattle when companies went there and how folks were gentrified. This is something that's going on nationally. But
it is.
But one of the things I also discovered, how the Democratic establishment, the way they treated a black man, okay, and I'm talking about black and white elected officials.
Oh yeah.
From Elizabeth Warren, I was at the NAACP dinner the other night, and she insulted the black community.
Wow.
She made a comment, and Tito Jackson is my friend, and well, if you was friend, why did y'all gang up on him? From Elizabeth Warren, Markey Capuano, Steve Tompkins, all these are city councils that supposedly his colleagues, for them to all gang up on a black man that spent, by the way, $350,000 compared to $5 million.
Right.
That's telling us something.
It's unconscionable.
And for all you Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay, let me talk to the Democrats.
Go ahead.
You
Ron.
know what? You better watch out, because see, black folks need to realize that. Listen, you either can be a Republican, Democrat, or independent, and we should not be loyal to any particular party until they start taking care of our issues. Because it is a shame what I've seen, smelling the urine from the different housing developments and even houses, and the conditions of people. We ought to be ashamed as a community. But it all comes down to that $8. One of the winning strategies for us was that it wasn't just about Tito Jackson.
Right.
And Tito was our liaison. He was the vessel that God was using. But it was also for him to move that dial. Hire more black people. Because that was an issue that we've been talking about on the air.
Yeah.
Boston Praise Radio, Super Tuesday, what have you. It's about hire more black people. And all of a sudden, in his third year, all of a sudden, there was shuffling sisters up in there. And boy, and I can see they were just shuffling them in there. And I was like, well, you know what? Get that money. Spend that money. That was our goal, right? The other goal was for them, and I even talked to my so-called opponents, right? That happened to be people that grew up with me.
Right.
I said, make sure he hires folks for the. So you've seen a lot of Marty Walsh's signs with people that were getting paid. But we need to learn how to negotiate and get paid. Don't just take the crumbs, take the whole loaf.
Yes, but and also, listen, I'm all about money, and folks who know me knows that money's not my motivator. But we need it to live. However,
and it make you smile.
Yes, but I have this other theory that all money ain't good money.
That's right.
Right? And folks who know me know that I've walked off good jobs because of disrespect and people treating you not the way you're supposed to be treated.
Right.
And so I don't go for that, maltreatment And let's talk about Counselor Chuck Turner for a minute. You mentioned him earlier. Now, ever since Counselor Turner has lost his position, stepped down, we've noticed that the big gap that he filled, there's a huge gap still left wide open.
Right.
I know Tito tried to fill his shoes, but I think those shoes were so big that nobody could have filled those shoes, because Chuck, and I tell you folks, if you're listening, Chuck was the hardest working city councilor that I've met. I was at the Boston Redevelopment Authority working. Lots of folks don't know that, but I was there. I worked there for quite a while with Harry Collins, and I got to see firsthand who was down at City Hall at the zoning commission meetings, the appeals, and all the rest of the meetings that go towards city functions. And Chuck was the only one that he would be running to get to all the different meetings on our behalf.
Right.
I don't see that happening.
Right. I'm not going to compare Councilor Turner or Councilor Jackson
Not
together.
comparing.
Because I know for a fact Councilor Jackson is a hard worker.
Oh,
and
yes,
not
saying, I'm just overall.
I know that for a fact, and I know some of the legislation he has filed, and I know some of the things he accomplished firsthand that he has, and we could have done a better job promoting that. However, I was working here. But the thing is, I think one of the things that we did, which was very unique and different, was that we had a breakfast called Passing the Torch. It was something that I had came up with because I thought it was important that because we had a whole group of individuals, 13 candidates for District 7, right? We're going to talk about District 7 and Ward 12 and the low turnout and all that. We can get to that.
Okay.
But one of the things I thought was important for us to see the different generations, from Garrett Saunders to Chuck Turner to Tito Jackson, and pass that torch, which we normally don't do.
That's true.
We don't train our replacements.
This is true.
We will all, because we're $8. We're $8. So we hold power, and it's not even power, it's influence. Because we don't really have any power. Yeah, that's a whole nother different topic. Show. So yeah, right. But the thing is, so I thought it was important that was done, and I thought that was a win for us to do that, because that hasn't been done before.
Right.
It was another win for us to really unravel some of the things that are going on in City Hall that folks just don't know.
Right.
And so they hide in City Hall. They have hearings during the day when people are at work.
Yes.
They hide in City Hall. And even though they put it on television, it's different. Like when a Pastor Wall, myself, you, or Chief walk in there and they see you. Because then they can't, I vote for this, vote this out, vote for that. They need to see people. People need to start showing up. And I know it's difficult whether you work.
Yes.
For those of us that do not us, but those that are not working, need to start going down there and stop calling and drilling individuals that are in office and overwhelmed, that are not in their district, killing them with, and I understand because of the desperation. I understand because you know your net worth is $8, this, that, whatever.
And you're traumatized. And you can't even think straight.
You are traumatized because see, folks can say we can do this, we can do that. You're a special person when you can say no to money. There are some folks that can't say that. They don't have. Some folks may not have that fortitude or that that resistance.
Well, I come from nothing. Right. So I can drink water and hit a piece of bread and call it a day, because I'm not selling my soul, or my morals, or my principles, or my values.
Right. Okay.
So at the end of the day, you can't buy me.
Right.
Yes. And you can't threaten me with my paycheck, because I'll tell you.
Right.
Take your job.
Go ahead, Sister Good.
And see you later.
That's right.
Because
there's a lot of folks that don't have that same umph, and I say umph. So anyway, so there was a lot of lessons learned in this election. I applaud Dr. Yvonne Spicer, who not only was she the first black mayor, but she was the first mayor of Framingham. And I spoke to her the other night at the dinner, and I was so happy to see her. And Sister Girl's going to get paid. She's going to be making $180,000, probably the highest one, definitely highest mayor in the state. So kudos to her, right?
Yes.
I heard you spoke about Ireland. He was appointed under the Patrick administration.
Oh, okay.
Governor Patrick, and I know him. He actually goes to Reverend Hines' church. What's the church on Humboldt Ave? I can't think of it right now. But he's a good guy, good brother. I'm glad that he's getting his just due.
Well, I try to uplift us and bring all of the information that I think we need to hear to our viewers' attention. Right. And I thought, the state, Massachusetts, just having their first African American on the anyway. So again, so you can figure out why we go to prison more in Massachusetts more than anybody, because we have no one that looks like us to represent us. Right. And folks think that matters, but that representation matters. Right. And so there's a quote. You're the politician. Taxation without representation. What is that all about?
Something like that. Yeah. But one of the things that did come out, the women did great. I mean, as far as women did great, as far as the city council, we have 4 black women, and hopefully they stay black. On our city councilor, Lydia.
Well, we have 6. There's 6 women.
We have
now.
4 black women.
Oh, 4 black women, but 6 women of color.
Well, they whatever. Said. Because sometimes people say they're of color until they, when they need to be of color.
Oh,
because
Lord.
I'm trying to figure out, what is Anissa George? Is she black?
Lord of mercy.
Yeah, well, Lord, help me, Lord. Help me on that one. But yes, we have Ayanna Presley. We have Ayanna Presley. We have
did you just say that?
Yes, I did. Lydia Edwards. We have Andrea Campbell, and then we have Ayanna Presley, Lydia Edwards, Andrea Campbell, and Kim Janey. So that's 4 black women. And I'm going to say why I said that. Sometimes people use certain ethnicities for their own personal gain.
So hold on. Well, see, you're making a Jamaican come out of me, because Michelle Wu says. I mean, I've seen interviews where she answers to being a woman of color, right? So I'm just not understanding what you're. Why are you looking at me like
I'm just waiting for you. I'm ready to respond. I'm working on my listening skills.
Well, I don't understand, because in the I read in the paper where it said 6 women of color are on the city council, 13.
They might be of color, but for me, and I'm not being divisive. I'm just pro-black. I love black people. All right, and I think it's good. Okay, women of color, that's fine and well. But I'm just happy that we have 4 black women on the city council.
Well, let's talk more about this gentrification issue that Tito brought up and so vociferously. Well, before we get to that, so
you seem a little annoyed. Did I say something?
No, I'm not annoyed. Okay. Elizabeth Warren came out and endorsed
Marty Walsh,
right? Mm-hmm. And I heard where she doesn't live in the district, and she,
that was quite interesting. Not only did Elizabeth Warren endorse Marty Walsh, Elizabeth Warren was encouraging Tito not to run for office. And for a white woman to tell a black man not to run for office, or to encourage him not to run for office, it's insulting to our community. If we're living in a democracy where we can promote democracy, promote civic engagement, which they've taken out of schools, which is an issue, for her to, behind closed doors or what have you, and try to encourage him and say that I'm going to be supporting mine, to try to discredit his dream. It's like, Negro, stay in your place. And for the Democratic establishment, right?
Yeah.
Statewide, congressional level, I mean, for them to interfere in a local mayoral race when the mayor has $4 million to
Tito's little $2.
Well, not when $2. He had $350,000.
$350,000.
That's not bad for a black candidate, because Tito did pretty good.
Saying, millions compared to that.
Right, exactly. And not to mention all the other money that came from other different places. And I won't unravel all of it. But and so I was like, wow. And I said, in life lessons for Tito, and others, a part of the team, I want to give a shout out to the Team Tito for the work that they put in.
Yes, thank you.
Because they worked hard.
Yes.
And it's hard to go against the status quo. The media did not do their job.
Well, that's right.
Which is a powerful tool. Just look at what Galvin predicted for this election. he said there would be only 90,000 people to come out and vote. It was probably 108,000, this, that, whatever. Do you know when people start to hear that, it's like, you know what I mean? It dictates. You know, I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to say it. Trump is controlling the media.
Well, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, he's controlling the media. So there are actually folks that really like what he's doing.
Well, yes, they elected him. 62 million Americans voted for.
No, but but
hold on. Yeah. We're talking about sexual harassment.
Yeah.
We're talking about misogyny. Right. We're talking about disrespect on the highest level for women, children.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about people of color, because he disrespects us on a regular basis, so much so that the pundits don't even mention that he's disrespected African Americans, women, just the disabled. Who he hasn't disrespected is the question that should be asked.
Right.
And we've actually elected that to lead our country. So that speaks volumes. That says enough for me that the 62 million people who voted for that voted for the misogyny, you voted for racism, you voted for liar in chief.
Right.
Dude, you voted for not having any principles, any values, any morals. And so this is what you got. You voted for it, now you got it. So why are we surprised when the discourse has degenerated to name calling and all sorts of other third grade-ish behavior?
Right. Well, but trauma trigger. Yeah, but also when you say that, I can't help but to say that on a local level, look what we voted for in Boston.
Well, yeah.
2 indicted employees. It's like Caligula in City Hall. It's people sleeping around, just that. I mean, it's like, wait a second here. You know, you're endorsing this.
Corruption.
Yes. Do you understand? I mean, let's look at the big picture here.
No, but we 4 years ago, which you can't go back to, can't unscramble eggs. Right. So we had a choice between John Connolly, who's a family guy, because this was my reasoning. I'm not scared, and I tell everybody I did not vote for Walsh. Right. I looked at the big picture, and I saw John as the best candidate that we could have had. Now, why folks didn't see that, I don't know.
Right.
So now we're stuck with Walsh. Yes, we're stuck with him, and the failed policies that he's brought to the city. Listen, we're in a regression, both on a national and a local level. And if we're not vigilant, we're going to end up being more so slaves than we are already.
Yeah.
Hello.
But well, can I just say something?
Please.
That's why I think this Councilor Jackson campaign was so important, right? Because folks need to claim their political power.
Right.
And so if you don't have Councilor Jackson and all those wonderful people that were claiming that power, could you imagine the mandate that would be here now? And so that's really why I was really supporting everything that you all were doing, because I understood the layout here.
Right.
We don't want to endorse the stuff that's killing us.
Right.
No, we don't.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I just want to say that that's really why I supported what Councilor Jackson was doing, and why I see it as so important for the city of Boston, especially going forward, just for a voice for those issues, but also channeling those issues. And now, right, we can't ignore those issues, right?
Right.
Because of Councilor Jackson's campaign, these things have really been injected and put on the plate for everyone here in Boston. And I think that's good.
Right.
Anyway, because we need to be dealing with this stuff.
Right. And we need to keep pushing. I mean, it's like, I think that this, Councilor Jackson in his when we had the day on of election day, he said this is just a commencement. And so basically it's the beginning of, now it's time for us to keep on. What tends to happen sometimes when you lose, you go away and hide, like John Connolly.
Yes.
He disappeared.
Yes.
Where is
he?
And that's not what you have to be persistent, consistent. You have to keep on fighting.
That's right.
Until we win.
That's right.
Because the thing is, a win is not always winning the campaign.
That's right.
A win is like moving that dial.
Just a little bit further.
Just a little bit at a little
Just
bit
a little
at a time.
bit further.
A little bit further at
Yes,
a time. But you got to
yes.
keep pushing until we
Yes,
get all of it.
yes.
Because, just imagine how many black people wouldn't have been hired in the Walsh administration had Jackson not ran.
That's
so
right.
I credit Tito Jackson
Absolutely.
for
well, again, to quote Dan Atkinson, Jackson only got a third of the vote, but that third really liked him.
They supported him.
Dan says,
Yeah.
Walsh needs to find a way to make sure that doesn't grow over the next 4 years, said University of Massachusetts Boston political science professor Aaron O'Brien. Now, with that view, right, the third can certainly turn into a cascade of more than enough to put him over the marker for the next time that he tries. And so again, Tito, if you're out there listening, we thank you and we support you, and we know that it was a hard fought battle, and you did good, kid. Right? He did good.
Did. He worked
good.
hard, and I he was on my Super Tuesday show in Milton yesterday, and we spoke for an hour, and it was really exciting.
I've never been invited to that.
Yeah, you will.
I'm
be.
just kidding.
You
just
will.
kidding.
Be.
Just kidding.
You will be. No, it's really admirable for him to take this on, to risk a $100,000 job.
Yes.
And to really bring up issues that would never have been talked about, from Boston 2024, the IndyCar, the 2 indictments, the gentrification. I mean, the list goes on and on. Our school system, the issue would have the incident that occurred at Boston Latin School,
Yes.
which could have been dug deep in, because I know
Yes.
all the backdrop stuff that really went on.
All the dirt that you could tell that you're not telling.
The fact that in credit, their strategist.
Yeah.
He ducked Tito as far as debating, because he tore his behind up in the debates. So and it was like it goes to show you, in his heart,
Right.
I know Mayor Walsh must be feeling like, I know this guy's better than me. It's not about him being black.
No,
it's about him being
no.
a better, smarter candidate. And to have these other elected officials endorse this corruption, it's really speaks to
It's telling.
what they represent.
It is.
I mean, we want to participate and get our representation, and then when we go, we see this stuff that looks so just dirty.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And that's what turns off our young people from wanting to be involved in politics.
Young and old.
Well, yes, because because at one point I went to the Green Party. I was not affiliated with either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, and that's how I went to work for Jill Stein. I was so disgusted with what I saw in the Democratic Party, because I've worked on several levels of government just to see how it works, and it's ugly.
Right.
It is not pretty. And so if I told everything I knew, folks wouldn't want to be involved in politics, or maybe somebody hurt me for telling their secrets and stuff. But, again, it keeps you uninterested, and this makes for lack of representation for the people who needs representing the most, right?
One other thing too, Jude, you're absolutely right, is that maybe I'm getting old. But,
Well, that's true, but
but some of the things that were fed to me,
right.
like dirt on individuals, I just
Stay away from it.
Yeah, I just I'm not, that's not me. I mean, even like media, the relationships I built with certain reporters, and information was coming to me to give to them, and
right.
that's not me, because I'm not in the business
dirty
of
game.
Yeah, I'm not in, and it's not politics.
Trying to destroy people.
Politics is not dirty.
Not
I
nice.
enjoy politics. It's the people that make it dirty.
Right.
And so when I was getting this information, I was like, I could. There were certain things that I was told about individuals on the other side.
Oh, wow.
I would not even bring forth to the media because it could destroy their family and their kids.
See, well,
I know how it is personally to be ridiculed, ostracized in the media.
But Ron, you were working with DeVal Patrick when, listen, I was in, this is what, it affected me so much that I would never, and again, I'm not PTSD is killing me right now, but when I was fine and watching Diane Patrick's sister, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember it vividly, and my memory's not so good. Mm-hmm. I remember working at Senator Kerry's office when DeVal ran for the second term. And they put out all of Diane's sister's personal business. Yeah, she was a survivor of domestic violence, as I am, and some other things. And they put it all out. It disturbed Diane so much that she went into a depression. And it was all captured on public view. Right. And so I promised myself that I would not put myself in that position. Yeah. And here I am on Boston Praise Radio on the reality, putting myself in this position. But because, again, my son was murdered, and the anniversary of his death is coming up. As you know, we did the last press conference, and I will continue to do them until something is resolved. Right. Because my life will never get back to what it was or be in any sense of normalcy. So when I come here, this is therapy for me, Ron. This is something that I look forward to and gives me purpose. And so this is a godsend. Thank you, Pastor Wall, again. But it gives me pause when I see our elected officials lying and conniving and not. Integrity means something. So when we're teaching our children not to lie, we punish them for lying. Right. What example are we setting? Now we think this is just a simple, everybody lies. No, not everybody lies. Right. And so again, what example are we, parents here, what example are we setting for our children? If from the highest office there's a liar in chief, right? And violating all sorts of norms. And what are we supposed to think that grabbing people by the private parts is normal? Are we normalizing this type of behavior? Right. And from what we see from coming out of Hollywood and everywhere else right now, so it's not just Bill Cosby who is shameless and needs to be banned from being in a room with other women, but again, it's coming from everywhere. So you have daughters, and we all have sisters and whatnot. What are you guys gonna do to protect the women in your lives? Because we're under assault, gentlemen. Yeah, we're under assault.
Women are under assault, as well as the black man. I watched it. I was at a play the other day. It was called 3/5. It was incredible. It's a play out of New York, and they actually had tickets. And I apologize. I think I did call Pastor Wall, but
well, you didn't call me in chief, but it's all right.
Pastor Wall, he was supposed to spread the word over there.
He's asleep.
But anyway, so and it was really. I mean, I met the writer of the play, and I was able to talk to him because I got to bring him back. This play is incredible. Okay. But anyway. The black male is under the black family is under assault. I know the women that are dealing with all this stuff being unregular. It's like Caligula. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes, it's horrible.
It's shameful. It's disgusting, right? And, but that's where our society is. And Jesus is coming back. I'm telling you.
That's what my mother said last night. I was like,
this
Ma,
is all in Revelation.
She's like, Jesus is coming. I said, Ma, you've been saying that since I was a kid, and I'm 50 now.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. This is all being played out. You read Revelation, it'll seem like you're in City Hall.
This is true. And for those of you who are not familiar with the book of Enoch that they took out of the 66, Google it. You all have the internet. Google the book of Enoch. Yes, Chief?
We got some people on the live chat. If I could just share some
of
this
please.
you. Is saying, wants to know about this. Mayor Marty Walsh, in agreement of permitting the BU Biolabs on Albany Street to perform on a number 4 level. These are non-curable diseases. We must come together to fight against this. They want thoughts on that. BU Biolab, and then also Tito can still have a working session on this for December. Is Kim Janey for or against the permitting of the BSL-4 labs? This is all from someone called What Wants to Know About This. And can we get that same third of Tito's supporter to support the non-permitting of the BSL-4 lab? That's someone from you too.
Do you want to address that?
Sure. It's criminal what's going on down there, and this administration supports what's going on down there. And it's a shame, and hopefully that third will come out and support that effort to abolish it. They are using people as experiments, and when you go, actually, we did a stand-up. For those who don't know what stand-ups are, is when you hold signs and kind of like our chair.
Yep.
We did one right at Methadone Mile. It is so sad what's going on with the people when the shelter was closed by Mayor Walsh, Long Island, and all them folks are on Melnia Castle. You go down there,
it's horrible.
It is
breaks
so bad.
my heart.
And what breaks my heart is like a lot of folks I know.
Oh.
They grew up with me.
Oh.
It is so sad, and they're coming.
It's bad.
Actually, and I won't.
It's massive.
It's
massive.
Listen, it makes my stomach. Listen, I'm.
And to your point, Judy, about these high skyscrapers, these buildings in Boston,
and they're putting wait a minute, they're putting an ice rink over in Roxbury when we haven't built a brand new middle school. We're shutting schools down, and you're giving people a ice rink, a skating rink. I'm sorry, Ron. I mean,
it's not my fault.
Listen,
I tried. I'm so glad to be back home. You punch him. No.
Listen, this is ridiculous.
It's terrible.
And we have again 4 people of color on the city council. Yes.
People of color.
Four people
black
of
women.
Yes on the city councilor.
And no black men.
But right and hold on.
None.
But that's not only it. When I saw Elizabeth Warren come out in support of Marty Walsh,
how did you feel about it?
I didn't like it.
Okay.
I've met Elizabeth Warren, friends of mine, and I use that term loosely because I guess they don't consider me friends. So again, I looked at it and I'm like, okay, so when is anyone on the city council is going to support Tito? Hello? I didn't listen. I was paying attention to hear. When I came in Boston 2012, I went to one of those events that Presley was giving, the jump event, right? Tito was there. It was my first time being in that close of proximity with Tito Jackson. And I said, let me watch him, because I'm an observer. That's what I do. And I observed how when he first came onto the scene, he didn't act like your usual politician thinking he's all high and mighty. That's one thing I noticed about Tito Jackson, right? And I noticed he talked to everybody. He didn't care who you were. Right. He talked to everybody. And that's the thing he has in common with Chuck Turner. And that's what I was trying to allude to right before you interrupted me earlier.
Well, that's why I had to take a leave of absence. I wasn't even talking about my cousin. I'm talking about my cousin. I'm going to defend the family.
But again, we need to have people who are engaged in our community.
Right.
And remember, this was 2012.
Right.
I doubt that Tito had any inclination whether he's going to run for mayor this year or not.
Right.
So again, I've been observing him and how he behaves when he's in the midst of his constituents.
Right.
And again, I must give you credit, Tito, not just because you came here, and yes, because you came here, because my show isn't one of those popular shows. And he didn't have to come here.
It is popular. You got me down here at 8:30 in the morning.
Well, yes. Well, thank you, Ron.
Because that's the reality.
When I'm talking about Mamweo and the rest, or one of the other broadcasts.
Yeah, okay.
No, and I love them.
We appreciate your humility.
I'm putting my mic on.
Okay. All right. He woke up. He all right. Yay!
Carlos Enriquez is watching this, and he said, "Who is that person that's talking with Ron Bell?" People love the intellect and the truth coming out of you. So do it, girl.
Information.
And what up, Carlos? My man.
You got my West Indian coming out.
Right.
See, look here. Well,
I'm gonna have my Mission Hill come out.
Oh no! We don't. No, we don't want that.
I feel right back at home.
No, we don't want that.
I'm woke. Isn't that what the young people say? Woke. I was like, Tito brought that up on my show yesterday. I said, woke. That's a new term.
So I just
for me
wanted to share with you all that as somebody who's going through trauma And I just want to say to folks who are going through trauma, I know how you feel, because every time I laugh, I sort of feel guilty.
Right.
I'm having too much fun. Do you know what I mean? So I just need to share that with folks. So back to our conversation about Tito not getting the support that I thought he should have gotten.
Right.
You know, you wanted to stay neutral. Yes, I understand that.
Right.
However, and back to when I saw Tito supporting Ayana.
Right.
Unabashedly, he supports her.
Mm-hmm.
She did not, and I don't care, you know, whatever anybody wants to say about me. She did not support Tito. And for me, that spoke volumes. Yeah. If Elizabeth Warren, who doesn't live in the district, has no bearing on the thing, thought it necessary to support her boy, right?
Right.
How come none of them thought it necessary to support their guy?
Right. You know, one thing I will say about Marty Walsh, and I will say this, and I credit him, which I very rarely do, the fact that he is loyal to his people. He look out for white people.
Oh, yes, he
Good,
does.
bad, or indifferent.
Oh,
you
yes,
can be
he
a
does.
criminal. He will support you
That's right.
to the day he died. And so and I think there's a lesson to be learned about it for us.
Hello, black community.
Black
We're
community,
talking
listen,
to you.
we're talking to you because one thing is that we all make mistakes.
Yes, we do.
We all have our dirt.
Yes.
We have something in the back room closet, this, that, whatever.
Yes.
But when a brother or a sister is down, the worst thing you could do is beat them down, because you know what? Every dog has his day.
Listen.
And so therefore, I'm like, because I've been there. I've been on the back end of the desert.
And listen, I witnessed
and
it.
I've been on the top of on the mountaintop. But the thing is, it's like, I never look down on people. When I see people being exposed in the media, like for instance what went on with Felix, what you do is pray for them.
Yes.
Look out. You don't start.
Piling on.
We could have easily been like, he got someone who would, sexual harassment. We could have done that.
No.
That's not my nature to do that.
No.
When
you
I
don't
had
step on someone while they're down.
Right. When I had my issue with the OUI, I was like, I couldn't believe the way folks treated me. Right?
Yes.
When I start to get back on top, they come back around asking
yes.
you for money.
Oh,
now they're beggars.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I mean?
But they remember how they dogged you when you had your problem.
And that's why you have to have a forgiving spirit.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it will harm you, because that bitterness will set in, and it will destroy you, and it will kill your soul.
Yes.
So therefore, black community, Ron Bell is back. I am glad to be home on the reality show. I am so happy that, y'all are doing it, and the power of the media is so important. When I seen what goes on with these media outlets, and some of the reporters are not too happy with some of these editors who took sides with Marty, good, bad, or indifferent. Right? And it's a shame. So therefore, Boston Praise Radio, Pastor Wall, Chief, Judy, and all the other broadcasters, we're doing it in Boston. We just need to expand. We need to be on 24/7.
That's
right.
So
all you out there, that's right, I'm going to do a plug for y'all. Y'all know it costs money. It costs money to go ahead and run this thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So all you out there with your nickels, dimes, and your $8, start putting it to good use so that we can get the message out through the reality. And Lord knows Super Tuesday's coming back. Black news and everything alike. So I am so happy to be back. Thank you for transitioning me back out of that madness.
Yes, well,
that was
as
I got stab wounds.
As I was telling my producer,
yeah.
you always welcomed me on your Super Tuesday.
Definitely.
Yes, yeah. So I just felt it necessary to reciprocate. That's what we do. Reciprocity is my name.
Right.
So again, healing after trauma, folks. You've been listening to the reality. Hero Nurturing Center is an extension of the reality. And again, folks, trauma doesn't have to be someone getting murdered like my son was. It can just be your experiencing or viewing someone else being hurt or harmed. And so again, take care of each other. Join Boston's original private club, Mass Bay Cannabis. You can text or call Chief from Mattapan's 857-505-8811. And no one is ever prepared for trauma, and no one is ever left unchanged by it. Trauma not only robs you of peace and joy, it can decrease your life expectancy. The good news is we have the power to heal. Triumph after trauma. When is this happening? Saturday, November 18th. That's this weekend, folks. The Grove Hall Library, 41 Geneva Avenue, at 1:00 p.m. to 3. Additional information, contact Linda Sankofa at gmail.com. And this is sponsored by the Sankofa Group with the support of Hero Nurturing Center. We have a couple of minutes left. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Ron Bell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Bruce Wall. This is the station, as Kevin and I used to say, that Bruce Wall built. And we want to thank him for his diligence and the hard work that he put in prior and years gone by, where now we are receiving the fruits of Pastor Bruce Wall's labor, where we have this extraordinary outlet in this community. Folks, if you like what you're hearing on The Reality and you want to support us, send us an email at thereality51 at gmail.com, and Chief will get back to you, our producer. And thank you again for joining us. We'll be back on next Tuesday, folks. Stay tuned. See you next time.